I'm William Paparian, former mayor and council member for the city of Pasadena, and a strong supporter of the rent control initiative that will be on the ballot in November of this year.
How'd you hear about our campaign?
Well, actually, I heard about it through Ryan Bell. I'm a frequent contributor with opinion pieces in the local media, Pasadena Now and the Pasadena Star News. And he and I would exchange messages from time to time, and he would make a comment or something about an item I had written about. And he'd mentioned at the beginning of the year what was going on with the petitions that were being circulated to get it on the ballot. And I remember there was a conversation we had in April, right around the time of my birthday, and I said, "Hey, Brian, I want to endorse the campaign. I need to do this. I need to be part of this effort. It's important." And that's how I came on as one of, I think, two former mayors, myself and Rick Cole, former council member Jackie Robinson, and current council member Jeff Rivas, who have endorsed the campaign, along with the Pasadena Unified School District.
Why is rent control important to homeowners and community leaders? Describe any inspiring moments where these groups have helped the campaign.
I think this initiative is a turning point in the history of the city of Pasadena. I've been here for 42 years, and this is the first time that I've seen such a grassroots movement to take control of the future course of our city. Unfortunately, the elected public officials haven't done it, and it fell upon the shoulders of the citizens themselves to bring this issue forward. It's fundamentally important to the future of our community that we have fair and equitable housing for everyone. The majority of residents in the city of Pasadena are renters, and it affects those of us who are not renters, those of us who are homeowners and are former renters, because it affects the quality of life of the city of Pasadena. And it's having a fundamental impact upon the lives of people of color in our community. The disproportionate cost of housing, $2,000 for a one-bedroom apartment, represents a substantial percentage of a family's income. For African American and Spanish-speaking families, it is impacting them adversely, and it is forcing many people who otherwise would want to live in the city of Pasadena simply to move out, or tragically, in some instances, end up becoming homeless because of the cost of rent, because of the disproportionate percentage of increase compared to the consumer price index, what it's costing people in terms of their income to afford to pay for their housing. People are paying 30, 40, 50% of their income on their housing. When you add on top of that the cost of food, the cost of gasoline, the cost of operating a motor vehicle, the insurance that you're required to have by law, it's becoming impossible for people to live. This affects everyone. It affects renters and homeowners alike, because many homeowners have young people that grew up in Pasadena, that went to Pasadena schools, that cannot afford to live on their own and are now living at home with their families. So you've got families now, homeowners, that have grown children living at home with them. This has a tremendous impact across all levels of our society. And I think it's very important that we make sure that this initiative becomes law and we have fair rents in the city of Pasadena.
What are some legal resources you'd recommend to tenants?
Well, unfortunately, the city of Pasadena, for a time, was offering some assistance during the pandemic. That assistance isn't being offered anymore. The Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles does have a hotline that a renter can call. The number is 888-694-0040. Or if they want to engage the services of an attorney to to provide legal assistance, they can contact the LA County Bar Association. They have a lawyer referral service, and for a nominal fee, I think it might be $50, they can get a consultation with an experienced lawyer that handles landlord-tenant litigation, that specializes in representing tenants who have been treated unfairly by their landlord.
Give us a couple of stories of people you may know who were evicted or had to move out of Pasadena because they couldn't afford to live here anymore.
I know many families, especially from Northwest Pasadena, people who grew up in this city, who went to school in this city, and their families could no longer live in the community that they grew up in. People who have known Pasadena to be their home all of their lives, and they've been forced to relocate to Palmdale, to Lancaster, to Riverside, to San Bernardino, because the cost of housing in Pasadena has become prohibitively high for them to be able to afford.
What's your story? Describe why rent control is important to you.
I haven't forgotten what it meant to be a renter, you know. I remember what it was like to have to live under the whim of a landlord. I mean, when I first moved to Pasadena, I lived on Raymondale Avenue in South Pasadena, and I started my law practice in this city in 1980. And when we got married, we moved into the apartment, and I remember how difficult it was dealing with the landlord when our first son came, you know. And when we finally were able to afford a home, we purchased our first home on East Mountain Street in East Pasadena. And at that time, our home, which was built in 1930, cost $108,000, which was about twice my annual income as a young lawyer. But I haven't forgotten what it was like to be a renter. I still have it in my memory. And I have a feeling and a compassion for those that are trying to establish themselves in the world. Young people graduating college, young people coming out of military service, trying to start a family, and not being able to afford a home to purchase, and then turning around and having to pay $2,000 to $3,000 a month to have an apartment to live in. It's become impossible for people to live under this circumstance. And that's why this measure affords some degree of justice. When we talk about just cause evictions, a landlord cannot evict someone to retaliate against them because they asked to have the plumbing fixed or something like that. But a landlord, if they wanted to, could increase your rent. Well, now for existing renters, there's going to be a cap on how much a landlord can increase your rent. It's only going to be 2 to 3% a year of an annual increase. In the past, a landlord had the ability to increase the rent in an unreasonable way to a point that a family couldn't afford to put food on the table because of the excessive increase in rent. Landlords will still be able to make a profit, but renters will still be able to live and survive financially once this rent control initiative is adopted by the citizens of Pasadena.
How do you think others can get involved in the campaign? What's the best way?
Well, they can Google Pasadena Rent Control Initiative, and it'll pop up. There's a website. They can get involved. They can ask for a yard sign or a storefront sign. They can encourage their neighbors and friends and family to be sure and vote. But the most important thing people can do is to remember to vote, because the percentage of turnout of eligible voters is always dismally low. And if we can get a strong turnout on election day in November, we can make sure that this measure passes. That's the most important thing people can do, is to remember to vote on election day. And now it's so easy with absentee voting, they can just do it by mail.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.